Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We're with Liberty Lass, who's level 27, 68,000 XP to go to get to level 28, and we have 1.5 million influence, guys. So last time you saw, we had what, like 100,000 or something. I can't remember how much, but yeah, I had a level 13 ranged AOE. I can't remember what it was called. Set enhancer. I guess the set that it produces gives all these really great bonuses in PvP and stuff. I threw it up on the vendor for 1,000. I just thought it's not going to be worth anything, and I sold it for like 1.3 million. So on the auction house. So we have all the money we need. We're in our base. Let's take a look. I messed one thing up in medical. I don't know what happened to the floor in the surgery, but we've got a couple of nurses here in the medical wing here, and we've mostly got it sort of done. Fun little, uh, fun little fact: these nurses act like the nurses in the hospitals, so you can buy inspirations and sell stuff to them. I also started working on the science lab. I have a little like containment with like force fields on it and monitors for the containment where we've collected our alien stuff and some microscopes and test tubes and stuff over here and a little hood or whatever you want to call it and some more monitors, and I don't know, this is a tank of some kind of biological material and monitor for that. And we probably have more to do. I want to create like a greenhouse or something in here, but we'll worry about that later. But anyway, things are looking okay, and let's go ahead and contact Christine Lansdale, who says General Z just contacted me by phone. He got cut off in the middle of our conversation. Channel 6 just ran a story about the Sky Raiders. We gotta rescue General Z again. I don't remember how many times we have to do this. Oh, we gotta go to fault line. So now we will head to this side, which is where the hazard zones are. Fault line's a pseudo hazard zone, but in any case, we can go there. It sort of annoys me that although it somewhat takes the order of the beacons, it doesn't completely take the order of the beacons that I have lined up, which makes it a little hard for me to recognize exactly where the hazard zones are because I'm looking for them to be ranked in order of level, which is how I rank them in the base, in the teleport room. And they're almost, but not quite. So anyway, we have 1.5 million influence, which is enough, or close to enough, to buy a level 32, has level 35 set of full enhancers at level 32. Like at 32, we can buy plus threes. And so we will have more than enough because we're not even finished with level 27 yet. And there's a jump bot and another jump bot. Two bosses right off the top. Let's take them. Hey there, jump bot. I'm going to stun you. Right there. So we do have to be careful when they wander away, that we want to make sure that we do not have them wandering and following them into another spawn. It actually doesn't matter. We're pretty powerful, but this guy was probably part of the jump bot spawn and just didn't notice us attack him. There's another jump bot. No Raider Engineer, so that's good. Next level, we will be getting our second to last power in our primary, I believe. And then at level 30, we'll be getting probably heightened senses. Then 32 will be transfer energy, then resurgence, and strength of will at 35 and 38. So if you are wondering why did the powers originally, so that like these powers will all have unlocked by level 30, I guess, on Homecoming. But originally, as I've mentioned, in City of Heroes, the powers unlocked at certain level breakpoints, and 35 and 38 were the last two secondary powers. So you may be wondering, why did it why did all the powers come in at 38 and the game goes to level 50? Well, the reason is that originally the game only went to level 40, so they couldn't make it so that your last secondary power came in after level 40, because then when the game was live, you would never be able to get that power. So they had to allow you to get all your powers, but then they had the problem of what are we going to do in the next 10 levels, and that's where the epic power pools come in. So I had an interesting one. This is certainly something I've talked about in my Let's Rants, but it just came up today, actually. A friend of mine is playing, I think it's 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons he was talking about. I lose track. He's playing Pathfinder 2, Pathfinder 2nd edition. He's playing, and not whatever new update they came out with, but the one that was around a year ago, because his campaign's like a year old. He's playing, I don't think he's DMing most of these. He's playing Pathfinder, he's DMing AD&D, he's playing 5th edition, and he's playing Basic Fantasy. So I'm not sure which game this came up with, but I don't think it was AD&D or Basic Fantasy. I don't think it was Pathfinder. I think it was in 5th edition. In fact, I'm certain it was. So it's 5th edition, and they're not that high level. I think they're like 4th level. I'm not sure. And he was complaining about the fact that his party mates, right, the other guys in the party, are I've seen General Z over there, but we're going to take these other guys, everything out first, and then rescue him. Cheesing it a little bit, but General Z is very suicidal, as you guys have seen, so we're going to try our best to avoid having him die if we can. So anyway, he's in this 5th edition group, and I think his character's a rogue. And he was complaining actually about the spellcasters, and he said he's frustrated because he feels like they have taken magical spells for their characters, or abilities, I guess, that you get when you level up, that at a very low level are basically letting them blast through encounters and making everything too easy. He's calling them, I win buttons. And so what he asked was, are there any games that don't rely on players not taking I win buttons? In other words, are there any games, role-playing games, this is tabletop games, where the players can, like, where they don't have any option to take I win buttons, versus in what he feels like in 5th edition, if you choose to take what he considers the I win button, well, then the game is kind of wrecked, right? And so he was just sort of asking me about that. And in fact, I think one of the things he was complaining about was comprehend languages. He said that, with that spell in the party, right, there's just no point to there even being languages in the game, right? Because they can just cast comprehend languages, and what's the difference whether you're speaking Elven or Trollish or Orcish or Goblin or whatever? The whole party can just understand everything. And it made me, because he used that as an example, it actually reminded me of one of my players who's, I generally consider a very good player. But I remember that in our original, I think I told this story before, but I remember that in our original, before we started playing D&D in 2020, in our very original first session 0, oh boy, purple jump bot. Yeah, we're definitely going to need inspirations for this. He said that one of the things I asked them was, what's something you've never done in D&D or a role-playing game and always wanted to do? And what he said was, I've never had the language actually matter, right? People take languages in these games and they keep track of languages, but it's never actually mattered. And I would really, really like it if language actually mattered. And I thought, well, that's actually pretty good, because I was planning to have language actually matter. I was planning to have the Dragonborn in my world were destroyed by the Roman Empire, because for those who haven't watched the older videos, I did a pseudo-Roman Empire campaign. It wasn't the real Roman Empire, but it was something analogous, right? We called it Rome, and are you still shooting me from there? Come on, get over here. I just don't want to aggro the guys around General Z. Not that I'm afraid of them, but I don't want to trigger that encounter until we find the clues. So anyway, they were playing in the Roman Empire in an alternate Earth, right? And in the real world, the Romans were originally conquered by and ruled for a while by the Etruscans, and then they rose up against the Etruscans and killed them, and kind of adopted their culture and and their gods and stuff, which is why a lot of the Roman stuff is very similar to the Etruscans. The Etruscans are older, much older, and the Romans basically they destroyed the Etruscans and purged their entire civilization and all record of the Etruscans that they could find. One of the reasons we know as little as we do about the Etruscans is that oops, I messed up. The Romans did everything they could to basically make it so that the Etruscans were erased from history. And so I decided, all right, I love this idea, and then the idea that one of them kind of comes back as an undead or something and wants revenge. And so after some thinking about the different races in D&D, I decided, partly because I'm not a huge fan of Dragonborn as player characters, and I don't really like the player character races that are based on animals or creatures and aren't really humanoids. I'm not a fan of that. I think it turns the game into a cartoon. And so I would have liked to just ban the Dragonborn, but instead, I did ban them, but I said, oh, let me use them, right? That the Dragonborn were the Etruscans, basically. They gave the Romans their civilization, and the Romans rose up and destroyed them. And so the Dragonborn, because they're Dragonborn, are they have their own language called Draconic, which of course, with the Dragonborn being extinct, no one would speak, and in fact the Romans so successfully, in my world, erased them from history that nobody knew they existed before the party started investigating it, right? Or except for maybe, the first consul of the Empire and stuff. So they were basically looking up top secret information and all of this, and a lot of the ancient records were written in Draconic because they'd been written by the Dragonborn. And so so the language was set to actually matter, and translating the language was important, or finding out what it meant would have been very important, and all of this. So the guy who said, I want language to actually matter, well, it mattered until he got to like 3rd level or something and took Comprehend Languages as a spell. And when he did that, I thought, okay, that's fine. I don't care that they can read the Dragonborn documents. They're, I wrote out what it says so that they could learn to translate it and read it. But here the guy who said, I want language to actually matter, took the spell that makes language not matter. And I have to wonder about that. Like, why would you do that? And he, like I say, he's a very good player. I enjoy him as a player. I think he's great. But he, as great a player as he is, he sometimes seems to almost like shoot himself in the foot. And one of the things he said about Deadlands that excited him about it was that was the fear mechanic, right? He really liked it, thought it was cool. And the first advance he took for his character was to take an edge that gives him +2 on all fear checks. Like, I thought you liked the fear mechanic. Why did you take an edge that negates it? Or not negate it, but it basically negates it, right? You took an edge that reduces its effect. Why would you do that if you think the fear mechanic is cool? I don't like that. I don't understand. It's one thing if the players who don't like the fear mechanic or are ambivalent about it and are just min-maxing their character want to take this. But if you as a player say, I expressly like this thing, why are you taking an ability for your character that negates the thing that you said you liked. Do you like it or don't you? I don't really understand that one. And it dovetails with my best friend, who's a different player. Hmm? Nemesis. Ah, this is the first appearance of Nemesis. Right, they're like, we got to find out what these guys are doing. Well, it turns out that the Sky Raiders aren't buying the weapons for themselves. They're buying the weapons for the Nemesis organization. And Nemesis are working for a guy named Nemesis, who's basically the, what is it, Doctor Doom of this world. So my best friend, he's always talking about how much he likes challenges, right? And he doesn't want easy fights. And yet, he took a whole bunch of abilities for his sorcerer character that, you know, he didn't have to take, that made the fights super easy. Slow, for example. Every single battle, he did everything he could to get an AoE slow off against all the enemies he could, so that they couldn't both make attacks and move and take reactions. And that, of course, made the battles way, way easier. And it's okay if you want to do that, but it's just odd that the person who's saying, I want there to be the battles to be more challenging than they've been, would then take the spell, a spell that makes them less challenging. Now, obviously, any spell that you take when you level up is going to make you stronger than you were. But there are certain types of spells that are particularly debilitating to the enemies compared to other spells, right? And they had many battles that just became cakewalks because his slow spell defeated the enemies basically as soon as he threw it. And I've said in my rants, and how many reward? We got 25 reward cards. That's good. I've said in my rants, in one of them, that where I actually considered at one point saying to him when he threw that spell, saying to the players, okay, the I win button has been thrown. Do you guys want to actually play this out? Because obviously the bad guys can't beat you now. Or do you want to just say the battle's over? Because to me, this is boring. So let's just say, okay, you won. We'll assume you defeated them and just take them off the board. Like, if that's what you want to do and you just want to win in a single shot, you can. But my question is, how is that interesting? And beyond that, because maybe some players like it easy, when the player says, I like it hard, and then does everything they can to min-max their character to make their character have an easier time of it, the question is, do you really like it hard? Right? I say, I like challenges. Right? And so what did I do? The second we got SOs, which make the character better, I set it on +1. Right? And I think probably in the 30s we're going to go up to +2. Literally the only reason we can't do +2 right now, because we're doing as missions, is because some of them come in as +3. Because we've been facing like 30% of the enemies at +2, no problem. We can do +2. We just can't quite do +3 yet. So if the missions never went above the mission level, I'd already have this on +2 at level 27. I want a challenge, right? I like it when I almost faceplant. Now, I don't want it to be too insanely challenging because then I can't like talk to you guys. But if it's too hard, then I'm going to get too quiet and, you know, there's no point to watching. You can watch one of the other people who just records video and doesn't talk, because that's not that's wrong, but that's not what I do on this channel. But yeah, I want the challenge, and I don't do things to negate the challenge without also upping the challenge. I could have left this on +0, guys, and we could have just been blasting through everything. But why? I don't know. And that finishes the story arc. We get 24,000 XP and 12,000 influence. And so we have saved General Z. And we're done with Christine Lansdale. So we need another contact. Can Miriam give us another contact note? Let's see. Should we do Lorenzo Tate? We just did Independence Port. So let's go to Marvin. I think I've done him a bunch of times before. So let's go to Marvin Weintraub. So let's head to the train station and we will begin our next contact. And how much time have we done here? 20 minutes, yeah, so we'll do a little bit more. I do have some things to do today. This is actually my third session recording today because I'm just having so much fun that I want to record some more and play some more. Whoops. Not watching where I was going there. So we're gonna go visit Marvin Weintraub on Talos Island. I think I vacillate back and forth. I have a huge amount of love for Atlas Park, just because it's the level 1 zone and you spend a lot of time in it when you play the game early on. I have a huge amount of love for Founders Falls because I think it's beautiful, but I think Talos is probably my favorite zone. Everything's kind of compact where all of the contacts and or most of the contacts and the stores are, and the auction house and the base portal and all of that. And then I think it's just a very pretty zone. Okay, we can't do this one. That's firebombs being disarmed simultaneously. So now we've got to go to Terra Volta. So now what we need to do is talk to him and complete the current mission, because I have no desire to go into Terra Volta and just call the freak show. And we get Ashwin Lannister, who was offered to us before. That's okay. Now what missions do we have? So we can take the fight to them in Independence Port, or we can go to the freak show for a 90-minute mission to rescue Tony Bass. Let's do that. This isn't a story arc yet, but hopefully he'll offer one shortly, and it sounds like he's going to be offering us one against the freaks, perhaps. I don't remember what other story arcs we have at this level. We did Christine's and Miriam's. Christine's the one we just did, which was General Z, and Miriam's was, of course, the Scroll of Tia-Leku. So let's head to King's Row, and we'll do one more mission. Mind Miss. The Marvelous Mind Miss is this character down here. She is a mutation widow. Alright. That's one of the prestige classes. Help me, single spade. Level 7 blaster. I don't know if he actually needs help or if that's just some sort of a joke. I don't see his name on here. Tectonic Shift, that's a really cool name. There are lots of cool... American Idol. That is cool. I really like that. Wonder what kind of... Is that some kind of robot character? That's interesting. Like American Idol. Neat. There are lots of very cool names. One of my friends from back on the United, her character name was All-Star. She had a suit like this, but instead of being like Liberty Lass or whatever, it was All-Star, and I really like that name. Freak shows. Alright, guys. I've gotten more powerful since the last time you saw me. Also, look how tall this guy is compared to Liberty Lass. What are these guys? Oh, those are family. Alright. And they're shooting at me now. Well, you're gonna get stunned. And the next guy is gonna get stunned. So we need to bust the gang leaders and their crews. I'm glad this is indoors, because there is an outdoor version of this. But I think it's Freak Shows and Council. Bust gang leaders and their crews, where it's on the outdoor Boomtown instanced map. And it is absolutely horrible to find them. You literally have to beat up everybody. They're very hard to find. Okay, and so this is why we don't set it on +2, because these guys would be +3 and he'd be purple to me, and that's just a little bit much at this level. I'd have to be constantly flying out of missions to get more inspirations, and I don't think I'd want to do it, and you guys probably wouldn't want to watch it. I gotta remember to stay and count to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are. Oh, okay, that's the minion. For a second there, I thought that was the lieutenant, and that he had somehow got lost a level. I was that would be really cool if when they res they were weaker, just because they've already, you know, gone down once and it's like they've been drained. That would actually be kind of cool if it did that. But I also know it doesn't do that, so I was very surprised, and then I realized, oh, it's not the lieutenant, it's just the minion. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we're looking for the bosses. And a guy named Tony who was kidnapped, I think. Now, I'm not going to worry about Tony the way I did about General Z, because he's probably not attackable. And even if he is, I really don't care. But yeah, Tony's probably not attackable. And I don't think he'll follow us around. Whereas General Z will follow you around and try to get involved in the fight, try to quote-unquote help you, and he ends up just interfering. And this guy's all by himself. Don't you feel lonely? Let me send you to jail with your friends. You also look a bit lonely over here, boy. And we're full on salvage again. So one of the things I really need to do in the base is put a salvage rack in there so I can start storing some of this stuff in there. And there's another red lieutenant. I really like that spin with the glowy hands. I'm really disappointed that I never tried energy melee before, because I've always loved how it looks and sounds, and I just never got around to it. I really should have earlier. I shouldn't have waited this long. Look at that. That's beautiful. Like, stunned like 3 of them. That is nice damage mitigation. And it's just a cool looking set. Look at that. Bam. So what do we take on, like 5 guys, 6 guys? No problem. Are these the bosses? No, they're just mooks, it looks like. Oh, you know, I didn't wait for the potential res. Shouldn't have done that. Because if a bunch of them rezzed, then it would potentially be difficult, but yeah, this is just family and freak show. But one of the things about these guys is they don't, other than the their electricity possibly draining a little bit of endurance, which with both stamina and quick recovery slotted isn't a huge issue anymore, they really can't do that much to us with our 35% smashing and lethal resistance. This character hits hard enough, fast enough, that I've been able to stop a lot of them from dulling pain like that. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them. Now we have the prisoner. So that is Tony Bass. Well, that was lucky. I accidentally targeted this guy and hit attack, and before I could even realize I had done that, he ran right into range and I auto-punched him. Great! And that's the mission. So I guess there weren't any real bosses, just lieutenants and stuff. We completed the mission. I think that'll probably be it for today. Or at least for this episode. I may play a little bit more off screen. Let me call Marvin. And do we have a story arc from him? We don't yet. So we're going to have to work him a little bit. So maybe what I'll do is work Marvin off screen a little bit. And when we get a story arc from him, I will bring you guys back for the next episode. I hope you've enjoyed. Until next time, I am Scrapper Lock, and this has been City of Heroes.